Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from Counter Necessary 2597 and it says, am I the arsehole here for not planning anything for Father's Day after my husband ruined my first Mother's Day? It starts, I'm 98.7% sure that I am not the arsehole here. But if I'm wrong, I'm willing to admit it and learn from my mistakes. Our little boy will be 1 late this summer. So this was the first Mother's Day and Father's Day for both me and my husband. My husband asked what I wanted for Mother's Day. I didn't want or need anything big or expensive. What I asked for is for husband to get up with the little guy and get him fed while I pumped and chilled. Breakfast in bed, just toast, scrambled eggs and coffee. For us to take the little guy to the zoo for the first time. This was the main thing I was looking forward to. And to go to my favorite taco place for dinner. Between morning and afternoon naps, we have about 4 hours of awake time. The zoo is about 30 minutes away, so I'd figured if we'd left as soon as he got up from his nap and ate, we'd have a couple of hours at the zoo, and worst case, he could sleep in the car on the way home. We took my mum and my mother-in-law out to brunch the prior weekend to celebrate them. His mum on Saturday and my mum on Sunday. I also got them each a thoughtful little present and flowers to celebrate their first Mother's Day as grandparents. I arranged everything and told my mum and mother-in-law that we'd be celebrating on the actual day with just our little family, and sent them a group chat, which included husband, my dad, and father-in-law, just to make sure everyone is on the same page. My mother-in-law is very pushy and overbearing, so I didn't want there to be any surprises or confusion. The Saturday before Mother's Day, father-in-law sent my husband a text with a picture of all the mulch he had delivered and said something like, "Gonna be a busy weekend," or something like that. Apparently he had 300 bags of mulch. They have a big yard with lots of flower beds. That night my mother-in-law called my husband and asked him to come over first thing in the morning to help his dad move the bags of mulch to where they were going to be used. She said since we weren't going to the zoo until after the little guy's nap, that husband could go over and help for a couple of hours and then come pick us up to go to the zoo. I was obviously not happy, but she guilted him and said father-in-law was going to end up hurting himself if he moved all of that by himself, and that it's not a big deal and should only take an hour or two. I told him his mum was doing this to try and get us to skip our plans and spend the day with them, but he kept saying it's not a big deal, saying his mum promised it would only take a couple of hours, etc, etc. I think most people know what happened. Husband went over first thing, which means no breakfast in bed, and I had to get up to feed the little guy. I was kinda pissed, but whatever. Spent time with the little guy, then when he went down for his morning nap, I texted my husband to let him know he should start wrapping things up. Then when little guy woke up 2 hours later, I called husband to tell him I'd be ready to go as soon as I finished feeding the little guy. He told me it was taking longer than expected, but that he'd hurry. Like an hour and a half later, husband called and said they weren't done, but he was getting ready to come home. It's a 15 to 20 minute drive from mother-in-law and father-in-law's house. At that point, we'd missed the window to make it to the zoo, so I told him to just stay there and finish and not worry about Mother's Day, since he hadn't done a single thing I'd asked for. I don't think there was any doubt in his mind how pissed I was. A little later, his mum called and said we decided not to go to the zoo, that me and the little guy should go hang out with her while the boys finished with the mulch. I admit that I was pretty pissy and told her I had no interest in spending time with the people who decided to ruin my first Mother's Day. I ended up staying home and ordering a pizza and binging Netflix. When husband got home, he was all apologetic and asked how he could make it up. I was still pissed and told him he could make it up by not ruining my first Mother's Day. I also told him he should plan on spending Father's Day with his mum and dad because me and the little guy were going to celebrate Father's Day with my mum and dad. Since Mother's Day, mother-in-law has been texting and calling, but I've been keeping conversations short and just giving very bland, generic responses. My husband has been apologizing and asking what he can do, but honestly, I don't want to bother. I know it's just a day and we can celebrate anytime, like we did with my mum and mother-in-law. It was my first ever Mother's Day, and it's not like I asked for anything expensive or difficult. The only thing is, he's incapable of setting boundaries with his mum, and she's incapable of considering anyone's feelings but her own. This past Saturday, he asked if I was still going to my parents, then said he'd like to go with us. I told him he could do whatever he wanted, but since I hadn't done anything for his dad, he might want to go and see him or something. We did both end up going to my parents and spending the day with them. It was actually a nice day. My dad insisted on grilling because of course he did, but the weather ended up being nice and we spent a lot of time hanging out on their deck, playing with the little guy. I'm not sure what, if anything, my husband did for his dad. I know he was getting a lot of texts during the day. I assume from his mum. She did send me a snippy text saying it was hurtful to spend the day with family at the expense of husbands. But I told her she got to spend Mother's Day with her baby boy, so it's only fair that I spend Father's Day with my family. I know my husband was hurt that we didn't acknowledge him for Father's Day, but I told him while we were driving to my parents' house that I'm just matching his energy. I admit that I haven't done anything to de-escalate the drama, but I'm still just so hurt he continues to prioritize his mum's feelings over our little family. This isn't the first time his mum has done crap like this, and I'm just so tired of it. She always oversteps and insists on doing what she wants. I'm doing better at keeping her at arm's length and holding my own boundaries, but my husband is absolutely incapable of it. This just feels like one of those typical mother-in-law situations that we kind of see time and time again, and it's shocking how many there are, to be quite honest. And it just feels like one of those ones where the mother-in-law has orchestrated this whole mulch situation. 300 bags that conveniently needed moving on Mother's Day morning. You know, it just felt like she knew exactly what she was doing. Maybe she didn't, but for me, it felt that way. And your husband just walked right into it, despite you literally telling him that this was going to happen. What you asked for, you know, it wasn't expensive, it wasn't unreasonable, but he chose to go over there knowing pretty much that he was going to get stuck over there. It was obvious, wasn't it? Then the absolute audacity of your mother-in-law to invite you over while the boys finish up is just, you know, takes the piss. As always, we see in these stories, it's not just the one issue that's the problem. It's going to be that relationship between mother and him, the boundaries in between. There's going to be more events down the road where she tries to play these games, and how are those things going to go? And that's what needs to be dealt with in the end. So OP left some comments and says, technically we've tried to alternate holidays or celebrate with one of our families on a different day, but his mum calls and texts non-stop if we spend holiday with my family. I already told him this Christmas we're spending Christmas Day at home, just the three of us. That should be interesting to see what tricks mother-in-law pulls out. Another commenter from OP says, I think I was trying to convince myself he had come through for us. Lesson learned. Another one, to be fair, if I really wanted to keep him from our son, I would have gone to my parents without him. I expected his mum to guilt him into going over there for Father's Day. And after what she pulled on Mother's Day, I wasn't going to reward her by letting her spend yesterday with our son. Another one says, lol, actually my mum and I get along really well. She can be overbearing and pushy too, with the difference being, when I tell her to back off, she does. But she said the same thing a lot of people here are saying, that I'm justified in my feelings, but if we end up going down this path, we won't be married for long. She thought I should accept his apology and let it go and give him the chance to do better. My husband can suck sometimes, but generally, when his parents aren't involved, he's a good husband and a good dad. We're both only children, but his mum is way more invested in his life than either of my parents. My mum can be a pain, but when I ask her to stay in her lane, she usually does. Someone called OP the arsehole because she did it on purpose and her husband didn't. And then OP replies saying, even if I don't necessarily agree with comments like this, I still appreciate them. Reddit can be such an echo chamber sometimes. It's good to get different opinions and perspectives. But you do bring up something that has been a niggling thought, which is why I posted in the first place. Because of our history and how often this sort of thing has happened before, I respectfully disagree with you. But just the fact that it made me pause tells me it's a valid consideration. Another comment says, I think this was just the last one in a long line of this kind of behavior, and really pushed me over the edge because it was so important to me. I did want him to have an idea about how he made me feel. I think it impressed on him how hurt I was. But you are right, this isn't sustainable. I'm feeling like we both did some serious damage to our marriage and we needed to figure out how to fix it. It's because this kind of thing happens lots of times, but this time it ruined something that I thought was really important to me. So it was a week later after this post that OP came in with an update and says, I posted here last week. You can find it in my profile if you want the backstory. I wanted to thank everyone. I've had a lot of people asking for an update, so here we go. This weekend, the husband and I sat down and talked about everything. I expressed to him how incredibly upset and disappointed I was at how both Mother's Day and Father's Day went down. I really wanted to recognize and celebrate my husband for Father's Day every bit as much as I hoped he would recognize and celebrate me for Mother's Day. He said he knew he shouldn't have gone to his parents on Mother's Day, but didn't know what to do since his mum was pressuring him, saying if his dad got hurt, it would be husband's fault. He admitted that he knew he messed up and he's been terrified that I was going to ask for a divorce. Since he cut to the chase, I told him if this is how our life is going to be, I don't want to stay married to him. I explained to him that I realized that while yes, I was upset about what happened on Mother's Day, that isn't what is making me feel this way. That was just the straw that broke the camel's back. This kind of behavior from his mum has been happening since before we got engaged and has just escalated. This has been happening for years. As someone here suggested, I'd listed all the times and events that I could remember that she had overstepped or just completely ruined. For our freaking honeymoon, she called him twice a day. Every morning to find out our plans for the day and then every evening to hear how the day went. Plus the constant texting, asking for pictures, telling him how much she missed him. I don't know how I thought this was acceptable. She tried to make our wedding about herself, tried to make my pregnancy about herself, tried to take over when we brought our son home, just constantly inserting herself and overstepping. I told him that I don't really want to get divorced right now, but it's going to happen anyway. I'd rather get divorced now while we can still do it amicably. Because if nothing changes, I'm going to end up so angry and resentful that it would make divorce very contentious. And I don't want that for our son. At this point, we were both crying, upset and emotional. So I told him that I'd give him some time to decide what he's going to do, but if I don't see clear effort being made to start prioritizing me and our son, that I'd move forward with a divorce. And the change has to continue. Every time we thought about this in the past, he promised he'll change, and sometimes he has, but then his mum pulls him back into her orbit. If we are to stay married, these are some of the things I'm insisting on in no particular order. We each own the relationship with our own parents. That means I'm not planning anything for his parents anymore. No cards, no presents, no brunches or parties, no pictures, nothing. If his parents reach out to me, I'm going to redirect them to him. I'm not entertaining or visiting with his parents when he's not around. I'm not taking our son over to theirs by myself, and if they drop by, I'm not inviting them in unless my husband is there. I'm not changing my plans at the last minute just because they decided to drop by without coordinating with us in advance, or because they want us to do something with them. Neither of us makes plans with our parents or accepts invitations until we discuss it with our partner. And if we both don't agree, and if we don't both agree, then we don't do it. And we don't throw each other under the bus. We just say something like, we checked our schedule and we're not available. Holidays like Christmas, Halloween, Easter, etc. are at our house. We can discuss inviting our parents, but we're not going to someone else's house to celebrate something involving our son when we can do it at home. This includes his first birthday, which mother-in-law is trying to take over and plan. Other holidays we alternate between our parents, and we will focus on being present. That means no more texting and talking to his mum non-stop when we're with my parents. No more oversharing with mother-in-law. She doesn't need to know about our finances or our health and medical issues or vacation plans or anything unless we both agree it's something we want to share. His visits to his parents can't be at the expense of spending quality time with me and our son. I don't mind him visiting his parents, but he's over there a couple of times a week. We are his immediate family now. We should get priority. We're not doing things just because she said we should, and we're not changing our plans just because she doesn't like them. She really doesn't understand that wrong and different are not the same thing. In her mind, if we're not doing what she wants, how she wants, then we are in the wrong. He needs to go to therapy with someone specializing in enmeshment, and we need to start going to couples therapy. I didn't even realize I have so much pent-up resentment that I can't look at my husband the same anymore. I'm just angry at him all the time, and I hate being this way. When it comes to our son, our word, husband and me, is law. If she disregards or minimizes our decisions for our son, then she loses access until she learns to behave. When me or my husband say no to either set of parents, the other person will support them and back them up. That means my husband has to stop trying to get me to agree with his mum all the time. I can tell he's freaked out and really stressed about the idea of putting hard boundaries in place or distancing from his parents, and I do feel for him. He said he feels like he's caught between a rock and a hard place, and that me and his mum are both putting a ton of pressure on him and both have conflicting expectations. And that's fine. He just needs to understand that I'm not tolerating this anymore. I know this will cause an absolute shitstorm with his parents, but I feel like if we don't do it now, it'll just be harder down the road. What does everyone think? Am I being unreasonable? Are there other boundaries we should put in place? Opie also had some more information saying he did seem overwhelmed, and admittedly it is a lot. I wouldn't expect it all at once, but this is where we have to end up, and I have to see progress and change. I'll sit down with him again tonight and start having that conversation. I want him to be successful. I want us to be successful, and I'm willing to put the work in and to also help support him, but he will need to do the same. Also says, I think his mum is at least partially responsible for some of his earlier relationships ending. I'll make sure to point this out. I feel like this is my last chance to try and turn this around. If it happens, that is on him, and I think it will just show that he'd never be ready or able to have an healthy, adult, romantic relationship. I would never allow my parents to act or treat him the way his act and treat me. If we do get divorced, at least I'll be able to say I tried my best and gave him every opportunity. Opie also adds, what I was trying to say is, if things are going to continue as they have been, I'd rather get a divorce. But if he is willing to put the effort in to improve our marriage and make real change, then so am I. All my boundaries apply to both of us. There is nothing I'm asking him to do that I don't already do or aren't willing to do with my parents. But yes, if he's just going to say things will get better without trying to make them better, I'd rather just be done and get the divorce. I absolutely don't want him to be my bitch. I know I can be hard-headed and opinionated, and I want a partner that will call me out and stand up to me when it's warranted, and a partner that will support me and have my back when that is warranted. And I want to do the same for my partner. Opie continues and says to someone, that is one of my fears. I don't want to have to be a nanny reminding him to behave and be a good husband and father. That's not what I meant to sign up for. If that's what ends up happening, then this won't work out. I've always hesitated to do this because I didn't want to come off as a nagging wife, but I realize now that I was just enabling the status quo. But you are right, we need to have some way of providing feedback to one another and being able to communicate in an open and healthy manner, even if the underlying topic is toxic. It was an absolutely brutal and heart-wrenching conversation. I never want to have to do that again, but I'm terrified that he won't follow through and the next conversation will be even worse. I don't think we ended the discussion because we were done. We were just both too wrung out to continue. Also, part of the reason I want couples therapy is because I don't want to have to do that alone again. I don't mind helping and supporting him. That's part of being married. I know he's going to stumble and trip sometimes. We all do. I'm not perfect. I'm going to screw up too, and I'm happy to help him, but I can't do it for him. He has to want to make a change, and if he does, I'll be there, and if he doesn't, then that's a whole different conversation. Opie talking about the mother-in-law again, saying it's not just that she called every day, it's that he answered the damn phone even when I got upset and told him I thought it was ridiculous. And I'll be honest, what really pisses me off is that I didn't make a bigger deal. It pissed me off, and I told him it pissed me off, but I never followed through. I just let him say things like, she's excited for us or she misses us, and the next time she had called, I'd roll my eyes and say something passive-aggressive. Then when they hung up, would carry on with what we were doing. I should have been more explicit that I didn't think it was acceptable. I'm not saying I expected no contact. I texted my parents when we landed at our destination, and then again when we're on the plane to go home, but that was it. And their only response was, have fun and have a safe flight, can't wait to see you. And I see my folks probably every 2 to 3 weeks, and they live about the same distance as his parents. So I don't have a problem with him going to visit, but that often? Really? OP adds again, because I was young and stupid and really believed that love conquers all. Because I really believed once we got married, he'd stand up for us. Then I really believed once we had kids, he'd make us his priority. Trust me, these are all thoughts I've had, and now I'm in the situation where I have a son that I love more than anything, so I can't wish I had left because I'm so grateful for my son. But I also can't stay anymore if this is going to be my future. Right now, how I ended up here is an interesting academic question. Answering it won't fix this, although maybe it will help me avoid being in a similar situation if we get divorced. The important questions are, can this be fixed, and how? Shortly in the comment section, someone was saying to OP that she has the same character as mother-in-law and to let mother-in-law have some things, to which OP says, "We've been together 8 years, married 5, and our son will be 1 this late summer. My whole point is I'm trying to keep her from ruling my house. She doesn't want to be a part of anything. She wants to own and run everything the way she wants. The reason I listed all these rules, as you call them, is because they are all areas where she has completely ignored what we want and imposed her will on us. I can't tell you how many times we've had plans that she insisted on us cancelling or changing or including them on. And yes, he should have said no, but whenever he's tried, she pushes and guilt trips and threatens until he gives in. Did you read my first post about what happened on Mother's Day?" Then shared the link and says that kind of thing is entirely typical of her and her behaviour. Which of my rules do you think is unfair or unreasonable? I'm asking because I'm really curious. I feel like all these are things in a normal marriage you just have a conversation about and decide where to go for holiday or whatever. That's never worked with her. If we don't do what she wants, how she wants, when she wants, then she starts with the manipulation. Do you really think it's okay that she called him twice a day for our honeymoon? Or that she texted him constantly? Or that when we are doing a holiday at my parents, she keeps calling and texting? Or that when we plan a trip, she convinces him we shouldn't go? Or that she thinks him spending Mother's Day at her house and skipping all the plans we had made? I think if my mother-in-law and my husband had a normal, even slightly healthy relationship, you'd be right. I honestly think she sees him as an extension of herself and not a full-grown individual who can make his own choices and live his own life. And OP added one more saying, if my husband wants to tell his mum about his health, that is entirely his choice. But what does he need to tell her about my health, medical issues, doctor's appointments, etc.? Why does she need to know how much I earn or how much I have saved up or how much I paid for my car or any of that? How is that her business? If we decide to take a trip, why do we need to tell her how much we're spending? And why does visiting her take priority over plans we made? I can't count the number of times we were doing something together where he bailed because she needed help with something stupid, or the number of times plans got cancelled because suddenly she wants him to come over. If he wants to devote all his time and effort to his mum, that is absolutely fine, but he can't do that and still be an involved father or engaged husband. What happens when our son is older and my husband has to choose between attending his school or games or whatever? Because yes, his mum won't be around forever, but our son won't be a child forever. What happens in 18 years when our son goes to college and makes my husband realize he missed seeing him growing up? Because he was busy catering to his mum, and I won't be a third wheel in my own marriage. I won't spend my marriage wondering what plan she's going to screw up or what decisions we make that she's going to try and override. It's not about sharing info or visiting. It's when those things happen to the extreme and impact our life as a married couple. I think there's very little you can actually add to that. It seems like she has like her own roadmap of what's going on, offering support through therapy, being crystal clear about what will happen. And as AOP said, it's not just about this one event. It wasn't just about Mother's Day. It's been a pattern of behavior for a while by the sounds of it. And there does come a point where your relationship is so much on the rocks that it's just not sustainable anymore. There's resentment building up and, something needs to happen. And that's at the point that they're at. And, the husband needs to make that change. It sounds like OP will support him all the way through to a point, but needs to be willing to make that change. And I really hope he does for their marriage and for their child at the same time. Who knows what will happen? But his initial reaction about being between a rock and a hard place is slightly worrying. But what do you guys make of this situation? How would you deal with it if it was you? Do you think this relationship will last? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.